Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Stotara Satashi Shrimad. Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Stotara Satashi Shrimad. Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are starting chapter 20, entitled The Dynasty of Puru, in Canto 9. I'll read the summary first and then we'll chant text 1. So chapter 20, The Dynasty of Puru. This chapter describes the history of Puru and his descendant Dushmanta. The son of Puru was Janamejaya and his son was Prachinvan. The sons and grandsons in the line of Prachinvan, one after another, were Pravira, Manusyu, Charupad, Sudyu, Bahugava, Sangyati, Ahangyati, and Rodraushva. Rodraushva had 10 sons, Riteyu, Kaksheyu, Stundileyu, Kriteyuka, Jaleyu, Sanateyu, Dharmeyu, Satyeyu, Vrateyu, and Vaneyu. The son of Riteyu was Rantinava, who had 3 sons, Sumati, Dhruva, and Apratirata. The son of Apratirata was Kanva, and Kanva's son was Medhatiti. The sons of Medhatiti, headed by Praskana, were all Brahmanas. The son of Rantinava, named Sumati, had a son named Rabi, and his son was Dushmanta. While hunting in the forest, Dushmanta once approached the ashram of Maharishi Kanva. where he saw an extremely beautiful woman and became attracted to her. That woman was the daughter of Vishvamitra, and her name was Shakuntala. Her mother was Menaka, who had left her in the forest, where Kanva Muni found her. Kanva Muni brought her to his ashram, where he raised and maintained her. When Shakuntala accepted Maharaj Dushmanta as her husband, he married her according to the Gandharva Vidhi. Shakuntala later became pregnant by her husband, who left her in the ashram of Kanva Muni and returned to his kingdom. In due course of time, Shakuntala gave birth to a Vaishnava son, but Dushmanta, having returned to the capital, forgot what had taken place. Therefore, when Shakuntala approached him with her newly born child, Maharaj Dushmanta refused to accept them as his wife and son. Later, however, after a mysterious omen, the king accepted them. After Maharaj Dushmanta's death, Bharat, the son of Shakuntala, was enthroned. He performed many great sacrifices, in which he gave great riches and charity to the Brahmanas. This chapter ends by describing the birth of Bharadvaja and how Maharaj Bharat accepted Bharadvaja as his son. So text 1, Sri Badaraya Niruvacha Purorvangsam Pravakshyami Yatra Jatosi Bharata Yatra Rajarshayo Vangshya Brahma Vangshascha Jagire Sri Badaraya Niruvacha Purorvangsam Pravakshyami Yatra Jatosi Bharata Yatra Rajarshayo Vangshya Brahma Vangshascha Jagire Sri Badaraya Niruvacha Purorvangsam Pravakshyami Yatra Jatosi Bharata Yatra Rajarshayo Vangshya Brahma Vangshascha Jagire. Brahma Vangshascha Jagire. Sri Badaraya Niruvacha Vaishnavis. Dharayanivacha Sam pravakshami Yatra jata sibharata Sri Badarayani Vacha Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Purur Vangsham, the dynasty of Maharaj Puru, Pravakshyami, now I shall narrate, Yatra, in which dynasty, Jata Asi, you were born, Bharata, O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Maharaj Bharat, Yatra, in which dynasty, Raja Rishaya, all the kings were saintly, Vangsya, one after another, Brahma Vangsya, many Brahmana dynasties, Cha, also, Jagire, grew up. Translation. Shukadev Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Maharaj Bharat, I shall now describe the dynasty of Puru, in which you were born, in which many saintly kings appeared, and from which many dynasties of Brahmanas began. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. There are many historical instances by which we can understand that from Kshatriyas many Brahmanas have been born, and that from Brahmanas many Kshatriyas have been born. The Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. Therefore, regardless of the family in which one takes birth, when one is qualified with the symptoms of a particular section, he is to be described accordingly. Yalakshanam proktam, one's place in the Varna divisions of society is determined according to one's symptoms or qualities. This is maintained everywhere in the Shastra. Birth is a secondary consideration. The first consideration is one's qualities and activities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First want to beg the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas that I may speak properly on the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, which has been handed down to us by Srila Prabhupada and our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. So we're starting a new chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 9th canto. And we're going to go through the dynasty of Puru. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes many histories and many pastimes. And we should understand that all of the personalities that Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Shukadeva Goswami speaks about, are actual personalities. These pastimes and dynasties were actually here on this earth in one particular time. And some of the pastimes were in the heavenly planets, or later on we'll hear about Krishna's own pastimes in Braj Bhumi. And we should understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Krishna svadhamo pagate dharma jnanadi bisaha. That when Krishna left, dharma, gyan, religion, intelligence went with him. But the Puranarko Dunoditaha, this Purana is the brilliant light that's giving us shelter in this Kali Yuga. It's showing us the path and it's giving us knowledge. It's giving us Krishna because he's Krishna himself, Srimad Bhagavatam. And as we purify ourselves with hearing and chanting, Vaishnava association, then these pastimes can become more real for us. We can understand them more deeply, understand that these pastimes actually happened. These dynasties were here on this earth. And we can learn from their activities, as we just learned from King Yayati and other kings that we've read about. And so in today's purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking very much about the Varnashram system. Varnashram system is eternal. It's created by Krishna. Everybody that is born in this material world are under the three modes of material nature, and according to the modes of material nature that they're under, they will be placed in a certain varna, work. But in this day and age, it's very much twisted up. Srila Prabhupada is making the point here that according to Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, it's all about guna and karma, not about janma, not about birth. It's about the qualities and the activities or the work that one performs that makes one's varna, situates oneself in a certain varna, not their birth, janma. But we see that after a certain amount of time and the degradation of Kali Yuga, people in this age and some years ago, they started placing more emphasis on janma, on birth. I'm born in a Brahmin family, so you should give me the proper fame, the proper, how do you say, aristocracy that comes with either being a Brahmana or a Kshatriya. Sudras are low class, should be treated very poorly, what to speak of the untouchables. But we see that it's based on guna and karma, qualities and action, not janma. And in Kali Yuga, it's so twisted up that maybe we can still kind of see remnants of how certain personalities have certain varna traits, certain varna qualities. But due to lack of training and misguided leadership in this world, everybody is just struggling to find some kind of job and pay the rent, become distracted by the television, eat unwanted food, make unwanted population, further unwanted population is made, and everything becomes so chaotic that nobody knows what to do, who they are, or what's going on. Creates such a society of confusion. And we see that Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish brahmanas. Because when you can establish brahmanas who are the head of society, then automatically the other legs, the arms, they'll be situated nicely. And so in the Shastras, it's stated that it's all by guna and karma. And we see in the summary, it talked briefly about Vishvamitra. We'll later read in this chapter about Shakuntala, who is the daughter of Vishvamitra and Menaka. But we see in Vishvamitra's life how he changed his varna. Vishvamitra was a king. Then he had a large army. He had 100 sons. Very powerful army, and he was going from place to place, conquering. He had his own kingdom, of course, and so one day him and his army, they happened to stumble upon the ashram of Vashishta Muni. Vashishta Muni is the son of Lord Brahma, one of the Saptarishis, very powerful sage. And he had a very mystical cow, Kamadhenu cow, named Sabala. And this cow could produce anything that one desires. Kamadhenu cows, they give us anything that one desires. And so Vishvamitra's army went to the ashram of Vashishta just to rest for some time, and then they were going to go immediately on their way. But Vashishta Muni, he said, no, please stay, I want to honor you properly, I want to feed you. And Vishvamitra, the king, he looked around and he said, I have a huge army, you're sitting in a very simple ashram, you eat roots and fruits. My army, we need very, very powerful foodstuffs, not just roots and fruits. And so Vashishta, he still said, no, please, I will feed you a sumptuous feast that will feed all of your army, full of satisfaction. So Vishvamitra, he said, okay, I trust you. They all sat down, and he brought his cow, and from Kamadhenu's udders came this beautiful, magnificent feast that the army couldn't even dream of. And they ate all night long, so many wonderful foodstuffs. But seeing the power of the cow, Vishvamitra became a little bit jealous. Why does this sage have this cow? He should be offering the cow to me. I'm the king. The king should get the best of everything. And so he went to Vashishta and he said, I would like to have the cow. I could do so much with this Kamadhenu cow. Please give me the cow. Vashishta said, I cannot give you this cow. This cow is so instrumental in my performing sacrifice. This cow is my dear friend. Can't just part with the cow. Vishvamitra said, I will give you 100,000 cows. I'll give you 1,000,000 cows. I'll give you whatever you want for this one cow. But Vashishta still said no. And so Vishvamitra, he took some of his strongest soldiers and he said, arrest the cow. We're taking the cow by force. So they started taking the cow. And Vashishta said that, I understand you're the king, and your work is done with your arms and your strength. And being a Brahmana, I forgive you. That is, my duty is to forgive you. That's what a Brahmana does. But the cow, Kamadhenu, she started pleading that you're just going to let him take me? You're not going to do anything to stop him? And Vashishta said, what can I do? I'm a Brahmana, he has his whole army. And the cow said that the Brahmana's strength is stronger than the warrior's strength. If you want me to stay, then just say it. And Vashishta said, stay. And out of the udders of Kamadhenu came these monstrous soldiers that just completely slaughtered all of Vishvamitra's army and 100 sons. In a matter of moments, Vishvamitra saw his whole army slaughtered. He was just standing all alone, thinking, what has just happened? And so he vowed that I must take revenge upon Vashishta. He's killed my sons, he's killed my army, he's taken everything away from me. He went and he performed austerities to obtain the celestial weapons from Lord Shiva. So after many years of austerities, penances, he obtained the celestial weapons from Lord Shiva. And he went back to Vashishta's ashram. And he saw Vashishta Muni, and actually he started destroying different parts of the ashram to draw Vashishta out. Vashishta came out and he was holding a cane, some kind of like walking stick. And when Vishvamitra saw him, he just unleashed a celestial weapon, just shot it right towards Vashishta. And Vashishta, he just stood there and it was absorbed into the walking stick. And Vishvamitra, he became angry and he started unleashing so many celestial weapons at him, and it was just all absorbed into this walking stick. It would be a nice movie to see, isn't it? These pastimes would be really amazing. But then Vashishta, he became so angry that out of every pore of his body, fire started emanating. and it seemed like he was going to destroy the whole world, the demigods actually had to come down and try to appease Vashishta, saying that you've humbled this king, now please be peaceful. So Vashishta said, I forgive you, now leave. And Vishvamitra, he saw the power of a Brahmana. What is my power as a Kshatriya compared to a Brahmana's power? I must become a Brahmana. And so for years and years and years, thousands of years, he did austerities. But at one point, there was a king named Trishanku. Trishanku was a disciple of Vashishta. And he went to Vashishta and he said that, I want you to place me into the heavenly kingdom, Indra's abode. I want you to bring me up to Svargaloka. And Vashishta said that you're not qualified. You're not pious, you're not religious, you haven't done anything to gain any position in the heavenly planets. You cannot go. And so he knew that Vashishta and Vishvamitra had some kind of struggle. And so he thought, okay, I will go to Vishvamitra and I will see what he can do for me. So the king Trishanku, he went to Vishvamitra, he told him everything that had happened. And Vishvamitra said, by my austerities, I have attained some Brahmatejas, some Brahminical power, I will bring you up to Svargaloka. And so Vishvamitra started performing a yajna, and Trishanku started rising up to Svargaloka. And Indra saw this king coming up, and Indra started pushing him down back to the earth, and he said, you fall to the earth. And Vishvamitra, he caught him with his Brahminical powers. And there was a struggle, and Vishvamitra, he said that if Indra won't let you in, then I will create my own heavenly planets. And so Vishvamitra, by his Brahminical power, created his own lunar mansion with 27 planets, I believe. He created his own heavenly planets and placed Trishanku in charge of the heavenly planets. They say that this mini solar system, I guess, is in the southern hemisphere of our universe. But by doing so, Vishvamitra, he had lost all of his Brahmatejas that he was gaining. So again, he had to go back and perform austerities and penances for thousands of years. And this time, Indra saw that, no, we have to stop him. So he sent Menaka, which we'll read about later on. Menaka was one of the most beautiful apsaras in the heavenly planets. And she disturbed the mind of Vishvamitra. And they had a daughter, Shakuntala. And Vishvamitra, he woke up from this and he felt that I have fallen down. Now I have to go through austerities and penances again. And so he went back to the forest, leaving Shakuntala, leaving Menaka. And so he went back to the forest, hundreds and thousands of years of austerities and penances. And this time Indra sent Ramba, another apsara. But this time Vishvamitra cursed her. Out of anger, he cursed her. So again, he lost his Brahmatejas, went back, hundreds, thousands of years of austerities and penances. He wasn't even eating, he wasn't even breathing, he was doing such austerities. And finally, Lord Brahma came and said, now you can be a Brahmana. I give you that your Varna has now changed from a Kshatriya to a Brahmana. So this is told in the Ramayana, and the pastime of Menaka is told in Mahabharata. But this is an ancient story of how one had changed their varnas from a kshatriya to a brahmana by his qualities. And so we read in Bhagavad Gita how the brahmanas, they're peaceful, intelligent, religious, clean. The kshatriyas, they're heroic, brave, they're generous, they're leaders. They're brave on the battlefield. The Vaishyas, they perform the service of taking care of cows, farming, taking care of banking, mercantile community. And the Sudras, they're laborers for the other Varnas. And it's very interesting to note that in the 4 verses that these are told in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when you look at the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, they're actually just qualities. Whereas when Krishna describes the Vaishyas and the Sudras, he's actually describing their work, like their exact work. But for the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, their qualities are described. Interesting kind of point. But we see in Kali Yuga how the Varnashram system is completely topsy-turvy. And we see that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to spread the holy name, to spread Krishna consciousness, in Navadvip there were certain personalities that were misusing the Varnashram system. Earlier this week it was the disappearance day of Devananda Pandit. And it's very amazing to read the pastime of Devananda Pandit because he was a Brahmana. He was living like a sannyasi. And what was he doing? His main occupation was teaching Srimad Bhagavatam. He was a Brahmana. He was religious. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much wanted to chastise him. Now, why did the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna, want to chastise this Brahmana, who's got the qualities of a Brahmana, living as a Brahmana? It's because even though he was a Brahmana, and he was teaching Srimad Bhagavatam, he had no faith in Krishna. He was actually a Mayavadi. He was teaching the impersonal aspect of philosophy. He was teaching Mayavad. He couldn't even speak of Srimad Bhagavatam being a devotional scripture. And we know that he created an offense to Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur went to hear Devananda Pandit speak upon Srimad Bhagavatam. Even though he wasn't fully speaking on the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srivas Thakur could appreciate the Bhagavatam itself being spoken, and he started crying. And Devananda Pandit's disciples, they thought that this was a disturbance to their spiritual master's talk, and they drug Srivas Thakur out of the area. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, later on, when he saw Devananda Pandit speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, he immediately started chastising him. He even went to rip up his Srimad Bhagavatam, and the devotees had to hold him back. He was exhibiting such anger against Devananda Pandit, because Devananda Pandit was supposed to be a Vaishnava Brahmana. Brahmana means one who knows Krishna consciousness. But you could see that even though he was posing as a Brahmana, he was a poser, as we would say, in our day-to-day culture. So he was posing as a Brahmana, but he had no Krishna consciousness. Later on, by the mercy of serving Vakeshwar Pandit, he became a Vaishnava, and he was forgiven of his offenses against Srivas Thakur. And there's another very, very powerful example of how topsy-turvy the whole Varnashram system is in Kali Yuga, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, with a great personality known as Subhuti Roy. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Subhuti Roy was at one time a great landowner. And the Nawab Hussain Shah was one of his servants. And so Subhuti Roy, he would instruct his servants how to do certain work. And one day he didn't like how the Nawab Hussain Shah was doing something, and so he hit him with a whip, leaving a scar. Now later on, Nawab Hussain Shah was appointed by the Muslim government to become the governor of Bengal, or of that area at that time. He became the head governor. And so when Nawab Hussain Shah was with his wife noticed the scar on his body. And his wife immediately started chastising, "Who has done this to you?" And he said, "Oh, Subhuti Roy, I used to be his servant. He did this to me, but he was like a father to me." And she said, "He has scarred your body. I want you to kill him." And he was, "How can I kill him? He was like a father to me." No, I want you to kill him because he has scarred your body. So now Hussein Shah, he was thinking, how can I possibly do this to Subhuti Roy? And so she eventually said that if you're not going to kill him, you take away his caste by sprinkling water that a Muslim, water from a jug that a Muslim has drunk from. And so Subhuti Roy, he did that. Nawab Hussein Shah did that. He took water that a Muslim had drank, and he sprinkled it all over Subhuti Roy, and he lost his caste. He became an outcast from the Hindu society. And Subhuti Roy took this opportunity to leave home and go to Varanasi. And it's interesting to note in the purports that Srila Prabhupada gives that the Muslims did not start this practice of taking away castes by sprinkling water or doing these things. It was actually the Hindus that started it. That if you were touched by a Muslim or associated so much with a Muslim, drank with a Muslim, ate with a Muslim, that you would lose your Hindu caste and you would be outcasted. And so Srila Prabhupada makes this point that this was not begun by the Muslims, this was started by the Hindus, that they believed this. And we see with Rupa, Sanatana Goswami, they were born in Brahmana families, and later on, due to serving the Muslims, they were considered Muslims. But Subhuti Roy, he went to Brahmanas in Varanasi, and he said that, how can I get my caste back? How can I get my Brahmana caste returned to me? And some Brahmanas instructed him that you have to drink boiling ghee and then die. And then in your next life, because your stomach is filled with ghee, you will be born in a Brahmana family. This was their logic. And so he didn't want to die, so he eventually met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, and he went to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said that, how can I return my Brahmana caste? These are what the Brahmanas told me to do. Drink boiling ghee and die. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, go to Vrindavan and chant the holy names. Just by chanting Namabas, all your sinful reactions will be destroyed. And by chanting Shuddhanam, you will be placed firmly at the lotus feet of Krishna. And so he went to Vrindavan. He engaged in chanting the holy names, and actually he would serve the Bengali Vaishnavas, because the Bengali Vaishnavas are used to eating rice. But when they went to Mathura, all they would get was rotis, chapatis. And because their stomachs were used to so much rice, they would get indigestion. And so Subhuti Roy, he would get firewood, he would sell it, and he would get yogurt, and then serve the Bengali Vaishnavas yogurt to cure their indigestion. And when Rupa Goswami came to Vrindavan, Subhuti Roy was the one who toured Rupa Goswami through all the different, through all the 12 forests of Vrindavan. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see that the Varnashram system is so disturbed in Kali Yuga. He did not place so much emphasis on it, but he placed so much emphasis on Jiver Srupa Hoy, Krishna Nityadas, that we're all the eternal servants of Krishna. Whether you're a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Grihasta, Sannyas, Vanaprast, Brahmachari, the real essence is to obtain Krishna consciousness. If you're following the Varnashram system and you're not progressing in Krishna consciousness, it's a waste of time. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see, he took Haridas Thakur, who is Muslim by birth, and he gave him the status of Namacharya, the Acharya of the holy name. So Sarvadharman Pratyaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja, that surrender unto Krishna, give up all these different religious paths, so-called material religious paths, and surrender unto Krishna, and Krishna will take away all these sinful reactions. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the easiest process to cleanse our hearts, to cleanse ourselves of these upadis, sarvopadi vinir muktam. That upadi means designation. We're living in a world of designations, and from birth we're placed in so much designations, and people are putting so much pressure on us to live our lives in a certain way according to a society that's corrupt and disturbed. But sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat padatvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. By engaging in the service of the master of the senses, Krishna, one's senses becomes purified and one's upadis or designations are wiped away. Now somebody will come with the argument that, well, but as trying to follow Srila Prabhupada, we should still try to maintain Varnashram system, which is correct. We should still try to follow what we can in the Varnashram system. But there's an interesting pastime where one devotee was reading Hari Bhakti Vilas. One devotee was reading Hari Bhakti Vilas. For those who don't know what Hari Bhakti Vilas is, it's basically a huge manual that Sanatana Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they wrote, explaining how a Vaishnav should follow very strictly all these different rules and regulations, perform rituals and be in Varnas and do so many things according to Vaishnava culture, but also to keep the dharma of the Varnashram system going. So this devotee was reading Hari Bhakti Vilas. Srila Prabhupada asked him, "You're reading Hari Bhakti Vilas?" "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And Srila Prabhupada said, "You're reading Hari Bhakti Vilas? You're going to start following all these rules and regulations? And then you'll start thinking, I'm better than everybody else, and you'll fall down." So we can very much get into following the rules and regulations very strictly of Vedic culture. I'm a Brahmana, this Vaishnav's a Sudra, that Vaishnav's a Vaishya, placing ourselves on different levels, and then we commit offenses. We think, oh, I'm better than this Vaishnav or better than that Vaishnav, which is not the mentality of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or our Vaishnava acharyas. And so Srila Prabhupada wanted us to stay very simple by reading his books very deeply, which will give us Vedic culture and how Srila Prabhupada actually didn't want to just establish Varnashram Dharma, but Daiva Varnashram. And it's interesting because when you go on the Veda base in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada talks about Daiva Varnashram more than Varnashram. So Srila Prabhupada has given us such an amazing opportunity to dive into his books, to really understand who we are, what we're doing in this material world, what the goal is. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the easiest process of chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections? Bal Gopal Prabhu, who will... It's up to you, Prabhu.
Conversation, and they were glorifying Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you've done so, and then Prabhupada made the comment, "No, actually, only 50% of my work is complete." And they said, "What do you mean, Srila Prabhupada? You haven't completed the Srimad Bhagavatam?" He said, "No, I want to establish Varnashram." So, what did Prabhupada exactly have in mind, more than what he's already given us? Because you're making the point, Daivi Varnashram. Somebody could argue that, well, basically, we have that. People are all trying to become Krishna conscious, but it's simultaneously working in different capacities. So what exactly was Prabhupada referring to when he said that? What do you think?
I'm a very small person, and this is a very, very huge, amazing, over-my-head topic, because there are many Vaishnavas in the ISKCON society, Bhakti Raghava Swami, and so many others that are tackling this issue, seeing what Srila Prabhupada really wanted. And even my own Guru Maharaj has established the Govardhan Eco-Village. To me, when I look and read and study over what has been given to us from my own little brain. It seems that Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish farm communities and then have, he did mention that he wanted people trained up in a in a Varnashram college. But it's very interesting because I was watching one clip, well, listening, but watching pictures also of one clip where Srila Prabhupada is talking with Harisari Prabhu. It's in Mayapur, right? When he's talking with Harisari Prabhu about this. And he actually, Harisari Prabhu makes the point that this is for Kanishta Adhikaris. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, for Kanishta Adhikaris. So it seems that those who are struggling with the senses and struggling in the cities especially, and even for those people who are not into Krishna consciousness but want to live a simpler life, they can go to the farms that are established by ISKCON devotees, live a simple life, be trained up in Vedic culture, and live very simply. But now, to us that are living in Los Angeles, what does Varnashram really mean to our day-to-day lives? What Varna is book distribution in? What Varna is Harinam in? One can say it's Brahminical qualities, but actually it's transcendental to Brahmana activities. Harinam is transcendental. Prasadam distribution is transcendental. And so Srila Prabhupada saw that a lot of his disciples were falling down in the later part of the movement, and he wanted to establish that devotees can go to the farm, and even people who are wanting to, better their human existence can go to the farms. And as we all know, the Western civilization will crumble and people will go to the farms and engage in Vedic culture. But to us, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and even devotees who are thinking more about preaching in the cities. How are you going to go to a college and preach Varnashram, protecting the cows, to people who are into computer science and computer engineering? What Varna are you going to place them in? Grihetako, Vanetako, whatever ashram, whatever Varna you're in, take to Krishna consciousness, and come to the temple. It's very complicated, and we could speak days and days and days and give seminars on these points, and everybody's still going to have a different point of view. Somebody might disagree here and there. Yes,
well,
Prabhu.
yeah, I think what you said about the farms is correct, though, because that pastime actually played out over 2 days. On one day, Prabhupada made that statement about only 50% of my work is completed Varnashram. Then the next day, according to Abhiram, the Prabhupada memories, they came back and asked Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, yesterday you said only 50% of your work is complete. You wanted to establish Varnashram. Was that just a general feeling you had, or you have some specific plan? And Prabhupada said, no, specific plan. And they asked Prabhupada, can maybe ask, what is that? He said, I want to go to Gita Nagari, sit down, and teach you how to live off the land, according to Abhiram in the Prabhupada memories. So what you said was correct, as far as that part went.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge topic.
Yep.
And me saying just anything, it's not going to... I mean, you can go and research and research and research, and many devotees still have many different debates about this topic of how it should actually be implemented. But the thing that's really important that I've taken away from senior devotees is that sometimes in ISKCON there's this point of, okay, Srila Prabhupada's, he said 50% of his work hasn't been done, so we're going to stop the 50% that he did give us, and we're just going to focus on the 50% that he hasn't given us, or that he hasn't established. But we should be maintaining what he has already given to us and try to expand that. But then naturally, by expanding that, the other part will come. Is that okay, Prabhu? Anybody else want to Ananda Kirtan, Prabhu?
I had one question about, chapters. When we hear chapter summaries, we hear this whole dynasty of this person gave birth to this many sons, and that particular son gave birth to this person and this person and this person. So I was wondering, is that knowledge of the dynasties so important for our spiritual advancement? And if not, then why is it even mentioned?
So Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken in 7 days. Maharaj Parikshit is going to die in 7 days. And one might ask, like, well, he's going to die, and Shukadeva Goswami is going through the dynasties. Why doesn't he just go to Krishna Lila? Why doesn't he just go to the essence? But it is very important because these dynasties show how everything is connected. It shows how Krishna, where he took his birth, shows the great kings and gives us many valuable lessons. It is very important. Actually, every shloka, and even if you think about it, every word of Srimad Bhagavatam can produce ecstasy if we're really seeing that Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. But because we're impure and we don't have the full realization that Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna, then questions like this, they come up that, why is this important? Why are these dynasties so important? But it is very important. All these great personalities, we're hearing about Vaishnavas, we're hearing about great personalities that came in the solar and lunar dynasties. And it is important, maybe, that we don't have to necessarily learn every single name, Maitreyu, Kateyu, on and on, but they're very important. Is that okay, Prabhu? Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.